Okay, so the tale of Bluebeard. Couple things. I'm gonna preface this with the fact that I am not gonna be speaking super formally. This is gonna be my version of the tale of Bluebeard. So you're probably gonna be able to look different versions of it up, and it's gonna sound a little different every time, but this is Buddy's version, so yeah. So also, there's always gonna be parts. I don't know if it's always. There are often parts and myths that have like a more direct interpretation, and then there's like this unconscious where all the parts are you sort of interpretation. So I just wanted to let you guys know that up front in case you didn't. And if you don't know what the anima and the animus is, the anima is the woman part is the inner woman in the unconscious of a man, and the animus is the inner man in the unconscious of a woman, and they can both possess positive and negative traits. And I think it's legit. I think this is a real thing. Do I know how the gender thing pans out with all that? Do you just have your opposite in there? I don't really know that. I'm working on the puzzle pieces right now. So anyway, I just wanted to fill you in at first what the anima and the animus is, just in case you didn't know, and let you know that there's gonna be multiple layers of interpretation going forward. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so we're going to start this off the way many stories of female triumph start off, and that is with some douchebag trying to take advantage of a younger girl. Spoiler alert for how this is all going to go down. So there's this young girl that lives at home with her mother and sisters, and she's getting to be that age in whatever the fuck culture this is where she goes off and gets married. Well, she's walking through the woods one day, and Bluebeard, some guy that is way older than her and is kind of funky looking because he has a blue beard, walks up to her, and she is instantly uneasy. Like, she is like, something's not right. But he's a smooth talker, and get this, fucking rich, right? Totally capable financially of taking care of her, or so it seemed. And so even though it seemed really sus that some dude is walking up to a young girl in the middle of the woods, she went with it because honestly, relatable. So in our lives, we tend to, especially when you're young, try to find someone on the outside to take the role of what we suppress on the inside. And evolutionarily, it kind of makes sense, right? So evolution is just trying to get you to breed, okay? And feeling like you need a man is kind of like evolutionarily advantageous. And so I'm assuming that's why it's super fucking inconvenient, because why do we have an animus? You know what I mean? I know why. It's because humans are supposed to be super adaptable, but like, I think that's the reason that it stays unconscious, is so you'll think you need a husband and you don't. So that you think you need security in a white picket fence. Sorry, Jordan Peterson. We might differ on that. Because if the end goal is to be integrated anyway, then isn't like freaking procreating a side quest? I'm just saying. So anyway, back to Bluebeard, right? He ends up charming the family. She has sisters and brothers, and eventually they're supportive of this very young girl getting married to gross Bluebeard. So they do get married, and he takes her off to his castle. And his castle's huge because, as previously stated like 5 times, he's rich. He represents external security and the ability to protect on the outside, right? Ideally, we go to cultivate that on the inside, and we don't need that on the outside. Okay, so not long after she moves in with new hubby, he has to go on a work trip, and she does what I would do, and she invites her sisters to come stay with her and hang out, and see her awesome new house. Very normal thing for sisters to come do. And before he leaves, he hands her like this giant ring of keys. And obviously, he says you can use all of them, but you're not supposed to figure out where this one key goes. Don't try it on any of the doors. Just leave that key alone. Don't look for where it goes. Because if you do, I'll kill you. So she was like, yeah, wow, what the fuck? So anyway, her sisters show up, and they're just having a good old time in old boy's rich house, enjoying all the things that he has that they didn't have back home. And then she gets to talking about the keys. And there's this one key on the key ring that is bleeding. What the fuck? Why is there a bleeding key? And they were like, yeah, that's weird. What's with the bleeding key, sis? And then she was like, well, he told me that I wasn't allowed to figure out what that went to. And I think that that's pretty odd, that there's blood coming out of a key, and I'm not supposed to figure out why there's blood coming out of it and what door it goes to. And they tell her, sis, that is sus. I don't know about this dude. Maybe our first impression of him was fucking right, and maybe you're in danger. Maybe you need to figure out where the fucking key goes. So the sisters wait until she's off doing something else, and they're like, we're gonna find out where this fucking key goes. Because the sisters, very, very important. The sisters represent that feminine fucking intuition that you should have listened to. The younger sister is the naive you that wants to believe that somehow you can secure your self on the outside with someone else, but your intuition knows that this is fucked up and there's a timer on it. That this is not sustainable, that this guy can't give you what he's promising, because who is that anyway? So yeah. The sisters were like, what the fuck? Let's figure out where the bleeding key is going, what door it goes to. So the sisters are trying doors, and all of a sudden, the young girl runs up to her other sisters and is like, what are you doing? You are going to get me murdered. They're like, we got to figure out what's going on, because if something bad is going on, you're going to die, and we got to save you. You know what I mean? We're kind of your family, and that's kind of our job. So she agrees, and they start testing all the doors to figure out which one the bleeding key goes to. And eventually they get to the door that opens. And when they open the door, inside of it is all of his previous wives' bodies and heads. Like, the heads were all strung up on the walls, bodies everywhere, where he had literally cut off their heads, and then went out and found a new wife to go replace the one that he killed. Being a bad. Okay, so the sisters obviously were right. that feminine intuition was right. There was something wrong. He could not meet the internal need that you're supposed to generate for yourself. You know, talking about the interpretation of the actual myth, you know. And so they need to come up with a plan. And lo and behold, just as they figure out where the key goes and discover all the dead bodies, he opens the door and they can hear the front door of the motherfucking castle open, and they start freaking out. And she says to her sisters, the brothers are supposed to come. Go look over the hill because we only have a few minutes before we all die. And make sure the brothers are coming. Now, the brothers are also very important representationally. The brothers represent the internal good version of the animus instead of the negative projected out infatuation that is young girly love where you hope someone is going to solve all your problems and make you happy. The brothers represent the internal from within, like from inside her family, ability to be protected. Essentially, they are the good male presence in the story, and that's what they represent, is her ability to save her fucking self. And she wouldn't have to save herself had she not projected all that internal masculine energy onto someone else to avoid having to allow it out of her and to trust her own self. That's really what it is like she had to trust herself long enough for the good masculine parts to be able to come out. Anyway, so the brothers come running over the hill. Long story short, I'm losing gas. Okay. The brothers save the day. They end up beheading Bluebeard. Thank God, because fuck that guy. And then they end up throwing his body out to the birds. And the birds eat him up and fly away and take away all the horrible things that he did and sends them out into the universe where, you know, all that flesh and disgustingness isn't just sitting around. And that represents the Sin Eater. And I don't think I'm going to talk about the Sin Eater today because I've already went way out of my comfort zone just by making a more narrative type video. And I hope it turns out good, and I'm really tired. And you know what else I really hope? I hope you learn to trust your fucking intuition, and I hope you don't project your anima and or animus on to the outside world and try to get your needs met in a way that no one can meet, because it's this romanticized version in your head that you think will complete you, and it won't. And B, you already have it within yourself. And it's not just that, hey, you have it within yourself and you could use it. It's literally that you're actively ignoring the part of yourself that fills that role. And there's a pain from that. There's bleeding keys. So yeah. You don't fucking need him. You don't need him. So, okay. Bye, everybody.